The Mannin Line with Andy Wint.
Hi, good afternoon. Welcome to Mannin Line on Manx Radio. We're an open line today, so the floor is yours. You want to say something, you want to get in touch. The lines are open on 66 13 68. Text 166 177. WhatsApp on the same number. Or you can email studio@manxradio.com. If you were tuned in hoping to hear Key's question times, Keys have decided to stop questions. Well, they did earlier on. They're doing their bills and coming back to questions a little later on. So if you tune to AM 1368, at any time, Keys could suddenly burst upon you. Introduced by John Moss, of course. We must say hello to the Newcastle Town Road, which reopened yesterday evening. There is still some resurfacing work to be done at the bottom of Richmond Hill. Once the road's open, there'll be temporary lights in place for several days. 30-mile-an-hour limit on approach to the works. Also, the road past the Energy from Waste plant will become a dead end again at the junction with Richmond Hill. So just be aware of that. The circus goes on Richmond Hill, but it will be finished soon. And the good news is the matrix signs are working again now. We're in touch with the technology, so everything's fine on the mountain road, and it's a deceptively nice day today. So any thoughts on this? By the way, I must give a mention to a theatre group of people from Ramsey who left for San Diego yesterday. Cloyderin, the Northern Theatre Group, have been invited by the Maritime Museum of San Diego to perform excerpts from the musical play about the history of the Star of India, built in Ramsey in 1863, originally called the Euterpe, still sailing today, and one of the iconic features of San Diego in Southern California. They love the Star of India. She's one of the earliest steel plate riveted ships ever built, a USA National Historical Monument. Her history includes sailing 21 times around the globe, surviving many storms. She went aground in Hawaii. She was a cannery boat in the Alaskan salmon fishery run, and there's going to be a Manx group singing on her as she sails on the 11th of November, and they'll be performing at various other venues and gatherings to celebrate her 160th anniversary. And how much would you know of that if you lived in Ramsey? There is a small stainless steel plaque on the quay, but that is one of America's national monuments, and she was built in Ramsey. Do you think there's anything more we could do? And by the way, did you know all about this theatre group going to San Diego? They're paying for themselves, by the way. So well done to them for the Euterpe / Star of India. Now, a message in from Andy, who just said, this is the third time I've raised the subject. Sorry if I'm harping on. Doesn't matter, Andy. Harp on as much as you want. We all know, says Andy, that drugs and criminality is on the increase on the Isle of Man. Isn't the fact that anyone can get on a boat without showing photographic ID, sail here, do whatever they like, making it easy for those who want to conduct any criminal business. I've travelled to Jersey via Condor Ferry several times. You don't have any ID, you simply can't travel. So why not here, and what is the reason? It was interesting to hear, says Ray, the Chief Minister's rejection of Chris Thomas's assertion that the steam packet should be subject to FOI requests. As per the majority of public-owned business, FOI is a freedom of information. It means that you can, as a member of the public, can request documents from public businesses. Is the Chief Minister aware of the information which he thinks would surprise and shock the public? Could one of the reasons be anything to do with the government-stated green agenda, and perhaps that the Manxman burns twice as much fuel on a crossing to Heysham than the Ben McCree did? This is Ray's question, by the way, Ray's assertion. Does the Chief Minister decide which operations are subject to FOI requests? And if so, when did our administration become a dictatorship? Well, a dictatorship, again, that's Ray's word. But the lack of freedom of information, many people have commented on, not least Manx Radio. We put in several FOI requests to the steam packet just to find out more things about it. It is, of course, our company. We did buy it. The Treasury is the shareholder, and the Treasury, is our representative. And we can't, much the same way that we don't know anything about the Manx Development Corporation. This is the company that's developing brownfield sites. Well, not so much a brownfield site on Westmoreland Road, but they're looking at doing all sorts of things. I think there's a development down in Parade Street in Douglas. But we can't find out any information. It may well be that government's got really good reasons for this. It's just that they haven't told us. Ruth said, Andy, once again, Rob Callister proved why he topped the polls. I think his caring and common sense approach and commitment to both his Oncan constituents and the people of the Isle of Man say that. Rob Callister was on yesterday, had much to say, and I just wonder, and there was lots that was left unsaid at the end. There was much more that we had many questions that we didn't get to, but hopefully that'll be next time. And certainly Rob's back in the new year with Julie Edge. We're doing another one of our constituency Mannin Lines, and that's going to be in January when Julie Edge and Rob Callister will both be in the studio together. I know lots of people who save up and regularly go to Liverpool to buy items and to dine out. So what's the government doing to keep the money on the Isle of Man, says G. Here's a message in that just says... I think other MHKs who voted for assisted dying won't get back into Tynwald, says Anne. Well, you can only vote for one, Anne, so we'll see what happens. I also want to just bring up the subject of... yesterday, many questions came in about the police and also these particular police roadshows that are being held. And there's one going to be held this week. Excuse me. And the first of a string of police roadshows got underway to public gathering last night, which saw a scattering of residents turn up to voice concerns and make suggestions to the way laws are enforced. Well, the Chief Constable, Russ Foster, set out his key priorities and cultural changes that he intends to make across the constabulary, which focused heavily on being victim-focused, being visible and approachable within the community. We put a Manx radio microphone in front of the gathering.
Chief Constable Russ Foster made it clear he wanted the island to remain the safest place in the British Isles. To do that, he put together 5 main points which ensure police officers are victim-focused, problem solvers, responsive, intelligence-driven, and have an investigative mindset. I asked Mr. Foster if the stories we hear from the UK and further afield of wrongdoing by police officers could affect confidence in his force.
My experience of the Isle of Man Constabulary is that it is part of the community, the public of the police of the public. So I don't necessarily think it is an issue that it is within the United Kingdom and other policing jurisdictions. We have got the confidence of the public in the main.
One of the places available to those who don't feel comfortable contacting the police direct is Crime Stoppers, a charity that provides a way to report crime anonymously. From the beginning of the year to August, the service has been contacted 348 times. Karen Ramsey and Phil O'Shea are volunteers.
It's been a higher year recently than it has been in previous years, so we think although we haven't been promoting Crime Stoppers in the island very actively recently, people are still picking up the phone or going online and reporting, which is great.
So given that figure is higher than usual, is this because there's more crime or because more people are confident enough to report it?
We will never know why or where they provide that. That's the whole point of Crime Stoppers. But the fact that the numbers are going up is actually the key for us.
Residents who turned up to listen and make suggestions laid out a wide variation of issues, ranging from uncontrolled crossings and illegal parking all the way to poor service. It would appear that some of the issues face crossover into other government departments, but when other ministers have their own priorities they're focused on, does the Minister, Jane Paul Wilson, feel it's ever an uphill battle to get other politicians on board and help achieve her goals?
I'm always open and I do talk with ministerial colleagues, and one of the issues that was raised was noise nuisance. So, for example, I have been working with the Minister for Environment Environment, Food and Agriculture and with the Minister for Infrastructure to look at how we can progress making a change in the relevant legislation, which is infrastructure legislation. I'm fully aware that all departments have a range of demand, but I think it's about working with partners to look at what we're prioritising and why, and showing how sometimes addressing an issue like a change in legislation can make quite a significant difference.
Well, I wonder what your thoughts on this. You heard Russ Foster say that the police are the public and the public is the police. These community roadshows are being held this coming Thursday. There's one in the west at QE2 High School, 6 till 8 p.m. Monday 20th at Castle Rushen High School. Thursday 23rd at Ramsey Grammar School. And Wednesday 29th of November, they'll be at Sight Matters in Oncombe. They're all from 6 until 8. So what would you tell the police? What would you tell the Chief Constable were he here today? Well, you'll be able to speak to him, but not until just before Christmas. Ross Foster's on Mannin Line Wednesday 13th of December. The Chief Constable will be on Mannin Line. But I'm just wondering what your thoughts are. And we often tend to see, because so many people watch UK television, you get the backdrop of the behaviour and the conduct of police forces across the UK, and also, if you like, their shade of crime. So we tend to almost judge the Isle of Man by them. But we are, relatively speaking, very, very law-abiding and crime-free compared to elsewhere. But anyway, any thoughts on this? And I'd urge you to go if you're in the west of the Isle of Man this coming Thursday 9th. Go to QE2 High School between 6 and 8 o'clock. You can attend the roadshows and there'll also be some more detail about the upcoming consultation on the department's policing plan as well. Crime Stoppers will be there. As you heard, Jane Paul Wilson, DHA, will be there for those 4 events. And also, if you fancy doing some volunteering for the police as well, they'll tell you how you can get involved. They want to hear directly about any problems with criminality, antisocial behaviour in your area, and also it's a chance for you to have your say. I've been surprised nobody's raised the issue, says Jill in Oncombe, of the Isle of Man Energy closing the customer service counter in Douglas. They announced late Friday that it was closing on Monday. I'm sure many people are astounded that there's no face-to-face option for what we used to know as Manx Gas, now Isle of Man Energy. They're already giving appalling customer service. Surely this is going to make matters worse. Can you get Joe Cox back on to explain why this is such a good move, says Jill in Oncombe. Gordon's with us now. Hi, Gordon.
Hello, Andy. Hi.
What's on your mind, Gordon?
What you mentioned, your little promotion about the Star of India trip to San Diego.
Yes.
My wife is one of the people who has departed on that trip this morning.
Well, I mean, it's a tremendous effort that's being made. How did it all come about?
Well, a year ago, the theatre group composed and performed this musical in Ramsey about the history of the Star of India. And 15 people came here all the way from San Diego to visit Ramsey, to see the shipyard and to watch the play. And they then invited them back to go back this November to perform at their Maritime Festival. And as you said, they're all going at their own expense, which is not an inconsiderable amount of money. The group has been fundraising for 2 or 3 months, and they've had some sizable donations from companies and private individuals. But the thing I find very poor is that when they applied to the Isle of Man government in the form of the Arts Council for a grant or some financial assistance, they were turned down flat. Not a penny piece. Any
reason for that, Gordon?
I don't know what the reason was, but they were refused. I mean, they've gone to promote the Isle of Man and advertise us.
And I think one of the points, Gordon, is that it's we're profit in our own land here with the Star of India. The Star of India is absolutely iconic. I'm not saying it's the Empire State Building or the Statue of Liberty, but on the west coast of the United States, it is absolutely iconic, isn't it?
Oh, it is. It is. The people absolutely love it. And any connection, they can see with the Isle of Man is only good for us and can only bring visitors here, perhaps, in the longer term. So I think it's appalling that the government couldn't even cough up a few quid towards it.
OK, so when will your wife be back?
Thursday the 16th. They're away for 10 days, but they're travelling for 2 days either end, and there for 6 days.
OK, well, it's a fantastic thing, and I mean, the fact that it's just not come out of nowhere, but it's come out of a volunteer organisation that's put theatre and music together, and if it just it's going to put it's free publicity for the Isle of Man.
Oh, it is. Yeah.
And let's just hope that something can be done regarding this, and some sort of connection between the Isle of Man and San Diego would be a help in the future. What do you think should be in Ramsey then to commemorate the Star of India? I mean, there is that stainless steel frieze and plaque, isn't there?
Yeah, I think the problem is a lot of people here don't even know about it. They don't know it exists. Whereas if you go to San Diego and mention the Star of India, everybody knows about it. I think it could be promoted more, but I'm not sure how, to be honest. OK, well, if you're speaking to them, give them all our very best, and I hope they're in good voice. OK, thank you, Andy. Good to hear from you. Thank you, Gordon. This is the Northern Theatre Group that are off, on their way now to San Diego to promote the Isle of Man because of the Star of India. It is, I mean, just take a look at it online, the Star of India, this gleaming white representation of the Isle of Man, built in Ramsey in 1863. And now still sails, and one of the icons of Southern California in San Diego, and we wish them well. And if we can get any photos of their trip over there, then by all means do send them through to Manx Radio. We'd love to hear more about them. Thanks also to people commenting on the police and what needs to happen in the future with this. It seems, by the way, lots more comment on assisted dying. I'll give you a few pieces now. It seems much of the opponents to assisted dying come from a religious background. Surely compassion and empathy aren't beyond them. Why deny, by law, people the option to end their life with some dignity rather than to prolong suffering? When are the refurbishments happening on the Tower of Refuge? Soon, apparently. Visit Isle of Man should look at the Whitby Goth Festival and live-action role-play festivals where thousands attend in costume. Our medieval heritage might pay off if we had cheap boat tickets. Whitby has absolutely reinvented itself. Of course, Bram Stoker, the whole Dracula thing, Whitby is full of goths. It's a fairly gothic place anyway, Whitby on the east coast of Yorkshire, but they've made hay while the sun shines with that. You just wonder what we can do. And also, coincidentally, we have a statue of George Formby on Ridgeway Street in Douglas. Thousands of people go every autumn to Blackpool for the George Formby conference. And don't think anybody who's into George Formby is just a sort of an old fogey looking backwards. George Harrison of the Beatles was a massive George Formby fan because of the ukulele and because of the various stringed instruments that George Formby played. Now, we have lots of things on the Isle of Man, and we talk about having lots of things on the Isle of Man. Again, our Celtic history, our Viking history, and yet we don't do much about it. In the 1970s, towards the millennium, loads was done regarding do you remember the Viking boats coming ashore? That all happened. Hasn't happened for a long time, has it? Isle of Man energy customers, this is it, won't be able to visit the energy supplier in person. You've got to make an appointment. You can go, but you have to make an appointment and say, I'm coming. The reception counter based at Murdoch House in Douglas was the place where many, many people, me included, used to go. It's closed. From Monday, you can't go to Isle of Man Energy anymore. Well, the lady in charge of Isle of Man Energy is Jo Cox. She's the chief exec of the Islands Energy Group.
So we do offer an appointment service. So for those people that do think that they want to still see us and they have a complicated billing inquiry, they can still come down and see us, but it's by appointment only. So there'll be an online booking engine for them to be able to do that, and it means that they'll have a dedicated time slot rather than at the moment where they come into a public area and have a general debate at the reception desk. That's not appropriate. So we'd rather them book in with the right staff and get the right answer.
What is happening to those 2 employees?
So they're being repurposed into the back office to help with administration level. So they've not been made redundant. They've just been moved into another job role.
There have been questions about Isle of Man Energy's financial stability at the moment, with people saying this is a precursor to the company going bust. How do you react to that?
Absolutely not. I can completely deny that allegation. So we're really financially stable. The regulation framework is doing its job. It means that we're giving our management accounts to Chree in a timely manner. If you'll notice, we've been paying all of our MUA invoices bang on time. So the financial stability of the company, we're in good shape.
Perhaps if people were more aware of the reception counter closing earlier, they might have come in this week to settle a few matters they had. Why put this out on the Friday before the closure and not any sooner?
We've been monitoring levels of people coming in and out this week, and it's gone incredibly quiet, which is why we made the decision to close when we did.
That's Joe Cox from Isle of Man Energy on why they've closed the customer facility, the customer counter at Murdoch House in Douglas. Big tradition that was, going into the gas board. Do you remember at one time you used to be able to go in there and buy stuff as well? But that's the way it is now, and you heard Joe Cox's word on exactly what is happening.
Have you been invited to take part in the Household Income and Expenditure Survey? It's one of the most important surveys for our island because the information you provide is vital data for our island's financial planning. It helps us calculate our VAT revenue from the UK. Plus, it gives us a better understanding of the financial strains on residents, so we can support those who are struggling. If you've been invited, please take part. Visit gov.im/HIES for more information.
Drive smarter, drive more reliable, drive a great deal at Mannin Motors. With a superb range of cars for every budget, always available. And if we don't have it, we'll source it. Plus, servicing, valeting and prestige detailing too. Mannin Motors, Richmond Hill, Douglas. Find us on Facebook or call 420 420. That's 420 420. Drive a better bargain at Mannin Motors.
When you save a little money, it means a lot these days.
If you're looking for bathrooms and tiles, you'll always find something new in store at Pacesetter. For surprisingly affordable prices and excellent choice, search online for Pacesetter Douglas. Or better still, visit the Pacesetter Bathroom and Tile Showroom on Harris Terrace and see the new styles in store.
You can get the best of everything, where the price is twice as nice.
Here at the Ramsey Park Hotel, we're delighted to introduce our new executive head chef, Leslie Jacob. With a food philosophy of classic food combinations and flavours and his international experience, Chef Leslie excels in both New World cuisine and classical cooking, with the emphasis on great ingredients combined with skill and intelligence to delight diners. Call 818-123 to book the Lakeview restaurant at the Ramsey Park Hotel and discover seasonal specials, lunchtime offers, winter a la carte menu, Sunday roasts and more.
Would you be able to tell the difference between music composed and created by artificial intelligence and tunes made by humans? The world of AI continues to be a driving force, making changes to the way we could be working in the future. So how will it affect the music industry? Listen into AI versus the music industry. Tonight from 6, here on Manx Radio.
The Mannin Line with Andy Wint.
Fast tomorrow, 12:10. There's a beautiful model of the Star of India in the house of Mannin, says Texter 961, open 7 days a week. Joy in Kirkmichael. Thank you, Joy. It's good to know that. And it's funny how money can be found for MHKs to travel off the Isle of Man. Others travelling around the world to represent the Isle of Man. I wonder if they had to self-fund how it would go. Well, that's always happened. I mean, the Commonwealth, the Isle of Man, is represented in various Commonwealth organisations. So it's probably right that government pays for it because it's nothing personal. They're just politicians. I don't think they're sending the person. They're surely just sending the position. But we take your point. Every time I've been into Manx Gas at Murdoch House, I've had to wait in line. I've never been in and seen it empty, says Ian. Well, nobody's going in anymore. And thank you to Texter 713 who said the late local artist John Halsall presented a painting of the Star of India to the Society. The Society flew his wife and himself to America to present it in person. The painting still holds pride of place. Is it time to do something about the Star of India on the Isle of Man? It's been mentioned before, and I can't take credit for it, but somebody, when we were talking about getting tourists to the Isle of Man, said one big thing is people do visit the Star of India in San Diego. Why doesn't the government here maybe visit Isle of Man or give everybody who visits the Star of India in San Diego a £100 voucher to spend on the Isle of Man? Of course, the vast majority of people will never come, but it may draw people here. And surely, A, you get free publicity for the Isle of Man by doing that, and you maybe draw somebody in who will spend far more than £100. But you're playing to your strength. Nobody else can claim that they built the Star of India apart from us. It was built in Ramsey, the Utopia. Now it's in San Diego. So that's one of our iconic totemic offerings that nobody else can touch. A bit like the TT, bit like the Bee Gees, bit like Radio Caroline North. Or if you like, we've got Norman Wisdom sitting. All tourists, when they see Norman Wisdom, the statue of Norman, sit down and have a photo. When anybody spots the well-hidden George Formby, they'll have a photo with that. Look at the new Frank Matcham's restaurant bar that's open. Frank Matcham, doyen of the theatrical architecture world, and yet we've got a Frank Matcham theatre here. To put all that together, we've got an awful lot that nobody else can have. So what do we do about it? Is that how we get tourists here? Text, email, call and WhatsApp, and Eddie's on now. Hi, Eddie.
Hi, Andy. Just a query. I've been down the quay and there's all sorts of rumours going on about the Ben McCree, that she's got an agency staff on board in Belfast and that she's been damaged and is waiting to go into dry dock. I just wondered if anybody else has heard anything.
Not heard that. I mean, it's funny, when I saw you were calling about the steam packet, there's a rumour that Manxman had a problem and was floundering in the Irish Sea today. So I've not heard that. Where did you get that? Is that Manx Skeet about the Ben?
Yeah, Manx Skeet, you say.
Okay.
Yeah. But what you call it, she definitely is in Belfast. I know that for a fact. But I didn't know she had an agency crew on her.
Well,
so the Treasury Minister went and said she wasn't allowed. She wouldn't be allowed to be sold unless the government agreed.
Yeah.
So everything seems to have gone very quiet because I think it'll be a big mistake to sell her. Actually,
you think she should be kept on the fleet?
Yeah, definitely. Well, until everything is ironed out with this new boat. I think the new boat is a fine-looking vessel. Don't get me wrong or anything else, but I don't think she's been built for this short service. To me, she looks like a vessel that's been built for the Hook of Holland run, 10, 12 hours.
Well, I mean, I must admit, she looks at night time, Eddie. The Manxman looks really impressive. There's a lot of lights on there.
Yeah, but what we needed really was we needed a boat that would carry more containers, which she can do. But to be quicker, to do the run in 3 hours and do it cheaper. I mean, at the end of the day, the steam packet makes most of its money through freight. Everybody knows that. So I can't understand why they went mad on all the upper decks. I just can't understand that. I mean, they've already gone and said they're going to shut 2 of the decks for the winter. So why did they bother? They bothered for what, 3-4 weeks of the season?
All right. Well, now you've put that out there. Let's see if anybody's got any information on if the Ben has been.
See if anything comes
what sort of damage? Did you hear about anything in particular?
Well, I believe that they didn't secure the stories go, and what I've been told is they didn't secure the anchor properly. and that she's gone and damaged the bow.
Okay.
But I don't know if that's true or not. As I say, this is just skeet.
All right, well, we'll find out. Eddie, thanks for calling today.
Okay, a pleasure, mate. And by the way, at the start of India, I was on board her 15 years ago, and she's in immaculate condition. Absolutely wonderful job that they've gone and done her.
And again, I can't. People may think I'm going on about this. The Americans love her, don't they?
Oh, what? You wouldn't have believed. And she sails. She's got to sail once a year. She's got to go out and sail round the bay to keep her sailing certificate viable, and she still does that.
Fantastic. Okay, Eddie, thanks for that.
Okay, all the best.
All right, good to hear from you. 24 minutes before 1. Any news about this? We'll ask the steam packet what if the Ben McCree is in any sort of distress in Belfast, and if we can clarify that. Just say that's skeet at the moment. The Ben is in Belfast, and we don't know what sort of crew are on board and what sort of state she's in. I'm opposed to assisted dying, not based on religion, says John. I just don't want people that have a terminal illness, and this is wide and varied. I don't want them to feel under any pressure from wherever to opt for assisted suicide. Also, over centuries without drugs and our fantastic hospice, people haven't had this, says John. Secondary legislation, I think, is what lots of people are worried about. If the assisted dying bill becomes law, that's if that's the will of Tynwald, that's what will happen. But whether any secondary legislation will then come in, so whether or not residency rules will be changed in any way, or whatever may come in. So you heard Rob Callister yesterday said Jersey had an e-petition about this and then a citizens' jury, and only now are they looking at it. Now, it may be that we are well ahead of the game. We've been well ahead of the game in many things in the past, but it may be that we are well ahead of the game and people will look to our legislation and copy it because it's excellent. But I just wonder what your thoughts are with this. Juan's on now. Hi, Juan.
Hey, Andy. Hey, was it last week that the gas board decided to close down because it was a quiet week in the office, did you say?
It was 4:00 on Friday afternoon we got the information.
It's interesting that they did it last week. I think, did we have a really bad weather last week? Amber warning, stay at home, threat to life. Could have been a quiet week. Anyway, beside that, the Star of India, I knew John Halsall very well. I think John used to say to me, he used to paint a picture for them every year, roll it up and send it off so he could auction it and raise money for the Star of India. And his pictures of his seascapes and Star of India were fantastic. And the connection there, I was talking to someone who sails on the Star of India, one of the crew, at a towboat ship meeting in America last year, and they are very, very aligned with looking at the Isle of Man and coming a year and promoting the Isle of Man. So, yeah, I think there's mileage in that. And I think a friend of mine, Chris, is with the party that's gone, and he was talking to Ranulph at the government conference about promoting the Star of India. So I definitely think there's mileage in that with a lot of our historic stuff here, that's for sure.
But that wasn't why you called.
How did you know that? The clot shot up. Sorry, my bad. The COVID vaccination booster hub. They've got some leaks. Is that right, Andy?
Apparently, they didn't spot it. Nobody went in, and there was water pouring in through the roof.
Is that like WikiLeaks? Is it the same as that, or Paul Moulton leaks? Is that the same type of leaks? Or
Not exactly, I don't think.
Oh, okay. I'm just wondering because I think it was, I bear in mind, I don't know whether you can remember, it was 180,000 of our money that was spent on the airport vaccination hub. Is that right?
I don't know whether it was that much, but it was very well painted.
I've got that figure in my mind, and I did ask a couple of times, I think David Ashford was in the seat at the time, about the cost of this one, because the photographs I was getting through from the people that were in there working on it, you think it was going to be a luxury house that was getting built. Well, all over Britain, they were just putting some screens in church halls and getting on with it. So I'm very surprised that it cost that money to start with, which I mentioned back then, and also surprised now that it's in such a condition.
I've had a couple of messages in. Mickey dropped a note in and just said, do you think the fact that the government's reporting the fact that Chester Street may need some doing up is nothing to do with the fact that Tesco has just bought ShopRite?
That would be a rumour, wouldn't it?
And they want somebody to pay for it to be done up and put a supermarket in there.
Oh, I could possibly not comment on that. I'd be told for being a conspiratorial theorist.
Bring back Lipton's, that's what I say.
Bring back Lipton's. And a big shout out to Graham and Mike, who think me and Julian and Howard are boring. But they keep listening to the show, Andy. Come to pick the phone up.
Okay, yes. All right.
See you later.
Cheers now, thanks for calling. What's the update on Tramway Terrace, says Mike. Nothing as yet. Maybe something will come out today in Keys. John's with us now. Hi, John.
Hi. This is not specifically for the Manxman. It depends. It applies to any ship, really. But about a fortnight ago, we were at Heysham in the queue, waiting to get on, and I jokingly said to my wife, I hope they don't park us next to an electric car. Anyway, eventually we got on, and they said to me, turn round and back in, and that was a space right in the front between a container. Great, no problem. And what did they do then? They back an electric car right in front of me, so I was blocked in. Now, what I can't understand, health and safety jump up and down at the slightest excuse, but they're very quiet on this one. There's nothing being said. And let's face it, I think now everybody knows electric cars are prone to go on fire.
Well, put it this way, when they do go on fire, it's very difficult to put them out. Now, we don't know what the figures are as to how many, how many out of 1,000 do or what have you. We just know that when they do go on fire, there's really no putting them out.
No, it's impossible to put them out. This is the whole point. And I can't understand how health and safety are not jumping up and down. But they seem to be very, very quiet. I mean, I take it health and safety department are part of government, aren't they?
Yes, well, they are, but I mean, they got their own rules to follow. I don't know that they can be changed willy-nilly, but
they can be gagged by the government, though, can't they? Like any other.
I mean, above all this, and a friend of mine who's in the insurance industry keeps on telling me, Andy, the people that will decide this are the insurance underwriters.
Yeah, well, this was also mentioned to me. What's the situation with the insurance? And I mean, we all know where you get comprehensive or you can get third-party fire and theft, but it's the fire and theft that has never been more prominent, has it?
Well, the trouble is that, see, John, we don't quite know because they've only been around this lot have only been around for a certain time. I mean, you remember 70 years ago, the electric milk floats were everywhere.
Yeah, but they weren't being carried on ferries.
That's
daily,
true,
were they?
And it was a different type of battery as well.
Yeah.
But I mean, so we haven't quite got a kind of weight of evidence as to what's going to happen with these things. The problem is that when they do go, they go like Billy-O.
And the ship ends up sinking.
Well, I don't know about that, but I'm sure the steam packet have got, protocols for this. But I mean, let's hope 2 or 3 of them aren't parked together. Just put it that way.
Well, it only takes one. I mean, look, it happened, as far as I know, we've been away for a month, but this business was at Luton Airport, or where the car park went on fire.
Well, everything's been written off there. All the cars and the car parks are going to have to be rebuilt at the moment, and we never really got an official word of what vehicle that was.
No, this is it. It's gone very quiet on that one, too.
Okay. All right, John, good to hear from you.
Okay, bye now.
Thanks for that. And Howard's with us now. Hi, Howard.
Hello, Andy. Just a little bit of boring information for the general public. It's a pity for these people who have sad lives. Just on the Star of India, but moving away from that, that's a well-known vessel. But what is not known, in the 1800s, early 1800s, there was a chap moved from Gateshead, and he bought the Ramsey shipyard. And he built in the Ramsey shipyard what was called the Jane. It was a sailing ship, but it was the world's first purpose-built oil tanker. Previous to that, they carried it in barrels, and this was a purpose-built with iron tanks just like the modern tankers now, but of course it's a whole different ball game. But she was built on the same principle, and she was sailing from the Americas to Britain, and she was actually at times coming into Ramsey, where they had the Ramsey oil refinery, and they would refine the oils here and then ship it back out again into the UK as paraffin. And that was in 1850, something like that. And so the Jane was built here in Ramsey, and she had iron tanks with their own special vapor seals and everything. She became the first true oil tanker. And that's a little bit of Isle of Man history and all things. The post office actually brought a stamp out in 2019 commemorating it. It is known by the government as everything else, but they seem to forget these things.
So there was an oil refinery here?
Yeah, only a tiny thing. It was up in Ramsey. There was also the salt, where they used to bring the salt water from.
Oh yes, that's right. The brine pipe that came from.
Yeah, and that was all down, and the brine that was manufactured here, in a sense, it was pumped down, and some of the pipe work can still be seen on the coast up at Cranston, around that area. It's fallen away now, but that was brought down to Ramsey Harbour and dried out, and it was supposed to be some of the finest salt that you could purchase, and that was coming from an artesian well up in the north of the island.
Yeah, it's a fantastic story about that brine lake. Apparently, that they were looking for coal because the Mull of Galloway, there was a coal field, and they thought it may extend under and get to the Isle of Man, and in going for coal, they hit this perfect, beautiful, pure brine lake.
That's right, and they're pumping it, and as I say, on the way from Ramsey up to the Point of Ayre, there are certain areas where the pipework is still exposed now in the sand, and they pumped it all the way down through to Ramsey, refined it, and then sold the actual salt onwards. But the Star of India, she was the usurp, and she eventually became the Star of India. And as I say, she's still serving. They were talking about sailing across, but that was too far a journey to bring it back to the Isle of Man. It was an impossible journey. But the little Jane, she was only 170 tons, something like that. And she would sail across the Atlantic, bringing barrels over. Not barrels, bringing oil over in purpose-built tanks. So, in essence, she was the very first oil tanker, a sailing ship, schooner, and she was purpose-built with tanks as opposed to bringing it in barrels.
And apart from the stamps, is there anything in Ramsey that would tell you that the world's first oil tanker was built in Ramsey?
I don't think so. These are things that tend to slip, into the background. And but see, this chap, he brought the family over, the whole lot, and they come to live here. And he was born in Gateshead, and he had a coal company there, and purchased the Ramsey shipyard. And his whole family moved here in the 1850s, and that's when he launched the Jane.
Wow.
So there's lots of history here for that, maritime history. Being an island, we obviously have that.
You bet. And you would have thought that would be somewhere. And, when you go around many places, they make a lot of their industrial heritage. And yet we seem to hide it under a bushel. Mm-hmm.
If I remember correctly, I think the stamp was one of the high-value ones. I think it was just over £2 something. You probably still can get them. But it shows you, if my memory serves me right, there's a cut-away picture of the tanks and the actual ship itself. I might have a look up the post office, just being a sad...
I'm sure Maxine Cannon will be on the phone. Cannon will be on the phone to us straight away. All right, thanks, Howard.
Okay. Okay, thanks, Andy.
Good to hear from you. 10 to 1 now.
Ocean Views is the perfect venue for your Christmas party. Whether small groups of family and friends or corporate bookings, Ocean Views can cater for parties of up to 120 people. With excellent choices on food, from a delicious 1, 2 or 3-course Christmas feast, available from the 28th of November, to your favourite non-festive dishes from the chef's seasonal menu, with free parking and wheelchair access. See the menus and book now for Christmas. Find Ocean Views on Facebook or at oceanviews.im.
Spectrum Windows. If your house needs a new look and your windows let in rain, keep those cold breezes out and make it look like new again. Spectrum Windows, Spectrum Windows. Quality through and through. Great work guaranteed to you. Spectrum Windows, Spectrum Windows. Spectrum Windows.
No matter how much you need to dig or how much you want to dump, Fox Group Isle of Man offer an extensive range of plant hire, long-term lease and sales. We're the island's exclusive supplier for Louis Gong excavators with immediate delivery. Our machinery comes with a complete service package with finance plan options. Call John on 458946 to discuss your plant needs. Fox Group Isle of Man, part of the Fox Group of companies.
Hello, I'd like to rent a car for 3 days. Just something reasonable.
No problem at all. We've just got a few rules to make you aware of. You can't go off island, you can't smile in the car, you can't take any friends, it's £10,000 a day, and you'll need £1 million deposit up front. Any questions?
Renting a car doesn't need to be so difficult or expensive. With prices from just £50 per day, speak to Rex Rental Company or book online at rexrental.im.
Rex Rentals. I'm so glad to hear that.
Get ready for another winning weekend on Manx Radio.
Tell Skips are first choice for all your domestic or commercial skip needs. And this weekend, they're offering you the chance to win a £200 voucher to spend at 1886 Bar and Grill.
Visit manxradio.com and answer the competition question for your chance to win. You can enter as many times as you like.
And the winner will be picked on Manx Radio Breakfast on Monday morning.
Make this your winning weekend with your nation station, Manx Radio.
The Mannin Line with Andy Wint.
Good to have you along at 7 minutes before 1 this Tuesday lunchtime. We're talking about things that the Isle of Man has got to call on, and only we can say we did it. The world's smallest vehicle. The Peel 50. We've reached out to all owners of Peel cars around the world, and the early feedback, says Texter 099, is that we're in the process of organising a Peel Cars Rally August of next year, bringing back all the cars manufactured by Peel Engineering in the 1960s. The cost of the steam pack, I think, is putting people off. We've recently approached the steam packet and are awaiting a reply, says 099, just regarding this, for a fantastic Peel P50 event to go ahead August of next year, if we can bring back all these Manx-made cars to the Isle of Man. And a message in, just the Isle of Man steam packet should buy the Star of India. I don't think the Californians would sell it, to be quite honest. I don't think so. And we're trying to find out whether the Manxman was drifting around, or she certainly stopped earlier on. We'll find out what's happened. Mike said apparently the Ben McCree's got a hole in its bow from the anchor. Well, that's not confirmed, by the way. That's just a message in from 927 from Mike. I'd like to know who's in charge of cutting the grass and keeping it tidy at churchyards. Russian church is a disgrace, says 614J. I think the Chief Constable must be living in Cloud Cuckoo Land. The constabulary are the public, and the public is the constabulary. But Texter 105, send me more details of what you're talking about, 105. Love to hear from you. Great to hear that Rob Callister's taken over at the planning department, especially as he spoke so forcefully about the need to address the state of dilapidated houses, be they occupied or not on the Isle of Man, which I think dragged neighbourhoods down, says Dick. I think in his new role, Rob Callister's ideally placed to deal with the issue, especially as he said that commissioners are often reluctant to deal with such houses due to the cost of the prosecution of the property owner who allow their houses to get into such a state. It must be a breach of the original planning agreement for a house to be allowed to get so far from how it looked when it was first built, says Dick. If you change a window, the planners want to know, but let the window rot and the glass fall out, that's perfectly okay. And people are never challenged and prosecuted by the commissioners. Viv's on now. Hi, Viv.
Hi, Andy. Another thing we had in Ramsey that went to Australia was the Manx Brickworks.
Oh, the Manx Brickworks.
Yes.
When was that?
That was out on Gardens Lane, Glenolden. And it went out in, I think it was either 53 or 55. And there was about 10 families went as well. And they were based at Coode Street, Bayswater, Western Australia.
Okay, I'm just writing this down. Whereabouts in Western Australia?
Perth.
In
Bayswater.
Perth. Okay, Bayswater in Perth. The Manx Brickworks, the 1950s, you reckon?
I think it was either 53 or 55 they went out.
Okay. All right. Lovely to hear that, Vivian. Thanks for calling today.
Okay. Bye.
Good to hear from you. The Americans love the Star of India. Imagine if the Manxes love the Peggy even more, says Texter 53. Don't get us started on the Peggy, please. Let's have a look here. Do you still consider the story regarding Michelle Mone and Doug Barrowman as a non-Manx story, as you did previously? Well, it's not a non-Manx story now, because it's if you go to manxradio.com, Kenny, you'll see all about it. The links to absolutely everything is there. Okay, thanks for that, Kenny. Good to hear from you. And back to the same old chestnut, it's the steam packet. I looked at the prices leaving here on the 21st of December and returning on the 28th, £532. In the same journey from Heysham, the fare was £318. I've got the screenshots to prove it, says Steve. More should be done for the Viking side of our history, says Ian, but not the rose-tinted history that they have in the House of Mannin. Thousands of Manxies died because of the Vikings who wiped away our culture and left theirs. Nobody knows the Manx name for Snaefell, says Ian. Well, there's a story in itself. After the news at 1 o'clock, Christie's here with 1 to 3. Thanks to Chris Quirk on the phones today. Thanks for being in touch. Back tomorrow at midday.
WINT